listening to the Budget Overland podcast, where we talk everything overlanding, have guests on regularly, and even have a bonus show on Mondays called Overland Shenanigans, which it's like it sounds, a bunch of shenanigans. Stick around, see who's on today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of Budget Overland Podcast. I'm your host, Benji, and today's episode is pretty fun. I had Fletch from All Things Overlanding join me, and before we get into that conversation, I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you that took time out of your busy days to go over to Apple Podcast, and you left Budget Overland Podcast a review. I think we are at 95 as of right now, so we are 5 away from 100, and whenever we get to 100, I'm going to do the Super Swag Pack giveaway, which will be a custom t-shirt, couple of stickers, all the stickers, I've got 4, and a patch and a couple other little random things I could throw in there. So thank you guys for doing that. And if you haven't already, go over there to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for Budget Overland. It sure does go a long way. It pushes the channel for me and helps the algorithm in that weird way that I could potentially get more listeners. And that's the whole goal here. Secondly, Overland Shenanigans is a fun little show we do on Mondays. They typically last from 5 minutes to, I think the longest one was like 14 or 15 minutes. And the cool thing about that show is you can call in, leave a voicemail, ask a question, say hello, tell us what's going on in your overland world, some new gadget or something you just bought or some trip you just took. You can call in and leave a voicemail, and we will play it live on the air. And I'll answer it if it's a question or just whatever. If you just want to say hi, that's cool too. You can hear yourself on the old radio, if you will. The phone number for that is 314-266-9536. And if you're driving and you didn't jot that down, if you scroll down on your phone, there's a little blob down there called show notes, and the phone number is in there, so you can call and leave a voicemail. So that's fun. A lot more people are calling in. That makes the show 1,000 times more fun and appealing for me, and I'm sure the listeners also get a kick out of it. And that's just kind of, what's going on with me and what's going on with the overland world is Overland Shenanigans. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back, guys. I've got Fletch from All Things Overland in the house. Mr. Fletch, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for being on the show today. We were having a 20-minute conversation already before we hit record. I was like,
yeah,
I wish I would have hit record.
It was all garbage anyways. It's probably better that you didn't. So.
Yeah, we would have had to bleep a lot of that out anyway.
Yeah.
Hey, so I've not seen you since More Expo, I believe.
It's been a couple months, yeah.
And before we get into like your new truck build and all that stuff, I guess that's pretty much all you've been up to, right? Is just working on your new truck.
That's it. Yeah, no. I got divorced, kicked the kids out, just working on the truck.
Working on the truck. Daddy's got wheels. Got somewhere to go now. You got your tent on.
I do. I finally have a rooftop tent again. It's been months, so it's great.
So for people that don't know you, which if they don't, they've been living under a rock. You've got your irons in a lot of fire, if you will. So you've got a YouTube channel, you've got a podcast, you got a Facebook group.
Yep.
What else do you have?
I mean, I do the normal stuff, right? Like Facebook, a regular old Facebook page, Instagram. Got a TikTok, little TikTok with like 5 TikToks on it. So I do a little bit of that. YouTube is the biggest focus, right? Probably followed by the podcast. I've been doing the podcast for almost 4 years now, 3.5 years now. It's been a minute. So all that stuff. Got a Patreon group too. That's a lot of fun. We do have a Discord and stuff, chat, and have like a once a month call on that, which is pretty cool. So tons of stuff.
So, and you've got to keep up with times too. So it's like somebody comes out with some cool new format. You got to jump on there and do it, try it out, see what's
TikTok
going on.
For me, yeah.
I never did do TikTok. I know Jay started one whenever we did it. And I don't even know. That was back when China was all, spying on everybody. So I'm like, I ain't letting China spy. And then I think Americans, some billionaire, somebody bought them out or something.
Who knows?
It was the government maybe. So anyway, it doesn't matter.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, so let's take a huge step back, and then we'll just with a grain, just slowly, because we'll talk about this forever. We got 6 hours to fill here, so we've got. I want to jump back. I want to jump back to whenever you first, not even heard about overlanding, but when did you just start going like regularly and building out, your rig to do kind of the off-road camping thing? Like, how long ago was that? Because you started All Things Overlanding in 2016.
Well, so yeah, it's a weird story, but I'll keep it brief. So technically in 2016, so like my background is kind of marketing and operations and stuff. Like I'm like an ops guy. And I've done a lot of marketing stuff or managed marketing teams. So like I have a smattering of knowledge about a smattering of things, but I'm not an expert in any of them. So like back in 2016, I came up with the idea of like, I just sort of heard of overlanding. I was like, dude, this seems cool. I'd had Jeeps before and done wheeling and off-roading. But then I was like, oh, overlanding is combining camping with wheeling. Like this is perfect. Like I love camping. I like off-roading. I like 4x4s and lifting trucks and things like that. And so I came up with that idea and I was like, well, I'm gonna like make a brand, right? Like I'm a marketer. I need to like make a brand. So I made it and I never uploaded video, like maybe like one a year or two a year or something. And like a 2-minute long, horrible video from like an iPhone 8 or whatever it was back then. Just uploaded to YouTube and it's like me climbing a rock wall at the off-road park or something, right? And that's it, with like horrible music, no color grading, no, just horror. Like, no one go to my channel and watch my early stuff. It looks like I'm in like a torture dungeon.
So it's still up there?
Oh yeah, I haven't deleted anything.
Nice.
It's like some of my first like episodes of videos that I tried to actually do. Those weren't till like 2019 is when I was really like, okay, I started this thing like 3-4 years ago. I have like 6 videos on. It's like TikTok, but that's how my YouTube started too. Right. I was like, I gotta like try and make a video a week or something like that. And those early videos are like, I mean, I was in my basement with like really bad lighting, like just dark with the computer reflecting off my glasses and like looked like I was being held hostage by like Middle Eastern terrorists or something. And it was really bad. But some people on YouTube were actually pretty nice. And so I had a pretty good time making stuff and just talking about, the overlanding stuff that I was passionate about. And people were pretty supportive. And then it started growing. And then that's kind of how I got into it. Was I just purely wanted to do it as like an exercise for fun, and it just kept growing. So
that's really cool. So you started with YouTube, right? And then that spurred or spawned into a podcast. Like how further, like, was it roughly the same time or were you just like uploading it to podcasts, like same content or what? Yeah.
So I started doing the YouTube stuff and it was mostly like gear reviews, right? Cause I'm a gearhead. So I had just tons of stuff sitting around that I already owned. And I was like, it's not like anybody's giving me free stuff or anything. Like I just had a bunch of like cheap Amazon gear. So I started talking about it and doing gear reviews and stuff. And then at one point I was like, I've learned a little bit about overlanding now and like, building a rig and that sort of thing. I was like, I kind of want to do like helpful videos for other people that are interested in this. Cause all the videos that you watch on YouTube are like big, epic, crazy, like Revies Overland or, that kind of thing where it's like, hey, I'm in the mountains and I'm going for 2 weeks and, exploring. And I'm stuck in Indiana going, I just want to go camping for like 2 nights or something. But like, how do I find dispersed camping? How do I, equip my rig? What do I really need to do that? And then I had a friend at the time who she ran a podcast company. And she's like, if you're making videos of like topics like that would be good for a podcast, you just strip the audio off and make a podcast. I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it. So yeah, I started as video and then I was just pulling the audio off the like more topical ones and started uploading them as podcasts and just kept doing it, like once you start, you can't stop. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, and why not? Because you're spending the time doing most of that stuff anyway. And there's different types of people. Like most people are visual people, but then you've also got the, if you're working or on a long drive, you can't watch a video. So there's the audio. And I think that's where the podcast world, the YouTube world really meet hand in hand. And you could do both. And a lot of people do both. Sure. I attempt to do both, but dude, you're dropping like 2 videos, 3 videos a week on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, where are these coming from? Because it's good content. Is it just because you've got the content, I guess, the means to just keep creating? And
I mean, so being an ops guy, right? Like I'm efficient. That's my key. But that's part of my problem too, right? So like what I would say is, the coolest thing, in my opinion, about YouTube is that there's room for everybody, right? Like, so there are your like Venture to Roams or your Revies Overlander, your Storytell Now that are like super cinematic, super story driven creators, right? And I love that stuff. We all love that stuff, right? But not everybody has to be like that, right? So there's some people that are looking for educational, informational type stuff or like gear. Gear is great because there's you never run out of gear, right? Like I can review,
Mhm.
I buy new stuff all the time. I check out
Right.
new stuff all the time. I switch out my setup. So like what I've found, my sort of secret, if you will, my secret sauce is I'll batch content. So that's how I do
Mm.
it. I mean, I'll go out on a one nighter or a two nighter and I'll record like 6 gear reviews. And I'll try and record like a podcast or two. And then I'll come home and I'll record a podcast or two for my studio here during the week. And then I'll schedule them out. So like
Wow.
I'm usually 2 to 4 weeks out on stuff. And then I try and get on a trip, at least once or twice a month to kind of shoot so I tell my wife, I'm like, I got to go work. So I'm going to go camping now. It's kind of how it works. So
That's fun. And you're in Indiana. You don't have to tell us where, but like, where's the nearest dispersed camping for you? Like, are you traveling
we only have
hours?
one. Yeah, it's
Really?
Hoosier National Forest. It's about 2 hours away from me. I'm like central Indiana by Indy.
How large is that, like camping wise?
Hoosier National's pretty big. I want to say it's like 200 and some thousand acres or something. Like it's big. There's a ton of stuff in there.
Is it kind of like the Ozarks where you've got the fire roads and the Forest Service roads with some dispersed camping options?
Exactly. Yeah, it's mostly gravel. It's different from the Ozarks in that there is absolutely no wheeling. So I mean, there's not even, there might be like 1 or 2 creek crossings that maybe will go up to the hub of your wheel. Like there is no real
like
offering.
scenic gravel roads.
Dispersed
well,
camping.
that's fun too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're looking for, especially to get out.
It's great for camping, right? Overlanding. There's not a lot you could do. I mean, you could explore the whole forest in 2 days probably if you just drove around. But yeah. But it's a great place to camp. Quiet, fun, secluded. So,
where is your favorite place outside of there to visit? That's relatively like if you're going to drive for a day and spend the time driving, where are you headed?
That's a great question. Honestly, I'm a snowbird, man. Like I like winter. I'm not a summer camper. I hate bugs. I hate heat. I don't like sweating. I don't like any of that. So like most of the time when it hits like September, October, I'm usually going to Michigan or Wisconsin's kind of been my thing the last couple of years. Like I've hit up there. I mean, you go up there in February, March, and they still got 2 feet of snow and it's fun.
Really?
It's tons of fun. Yeah.
Is that where your big snow trip was? Was that in Wisconsin?
Yeah, that was in February. It was like mountain Wisconsin area.
Yeah, that was cool. Because you said that was quite a drive just to get
about
there.
8 hours, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So it's pretty far. But I mean, that's
you started out with no snow and you guys headed like in through a blizzard or something.
Yeah, we almost died. It's fun.
That's fun though, and it's cool. Like because I'm in the Midwest too, so yes, we get the 4 season. I'm sure you get the same kind of humidity and nastiness we get, and the bugs. And diesel heaters, and we don't have to go down this road very long, but diesel heaters are a great option.
Yep.
But now for us in summertime, there's like maybe zero breeze.
Zero breeze is what I got.
The ice coolers, whatever with the things.
Yeah.
I don't have any of that. So I ditch the tent pretty much in the summertime and go hammock. And if it's too hot for hammock, you don't need to go camping. So
right.
Go to the mountains. And last year, I think we went in August to Colorado, which still in Colorado in August is still pretty hot.
Yeah.
It's the humidity is less, but the higher you go, of course, it gets a little bit more tolerable. But
yeah, at least you have elevation. So
this is the worst time of year for us Midwesterners that like to camp.
Yeah, ticks are bad. All of it's bad.
But at least the diesel heaters gain us that quote unquote season. Since we have 4 seasons, we can call them seasons.
Yeah. Well, I've always loved winter camping, but I just roughed it. Like hot hands were about the most luxurious thing I had. So you're right. I mean, it was just about a year and a half ago. I actually tried a diesel heater for one night and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Now you're taking a blanket.
I literally ordered it while I was driving home. Like I'm on Amazon, like driving down the highway, like bye. So it's been great.
What was your setup? Yeah. Let's talk about that. Like, so your winter setup, just kind of roughing it, you take a 0 degree bag and some hot hands and that's it. Yeah.
So yes, 0 degree, but it's a $40 Coleman 0 degree bag. So it's more like a 50 degree bag. So just, fully dressed wool socks, layers, my quote unquote Coleman 0 degree bag, some hot hands thrown in there. I had a wool blanket that I'd throw over top of me. That was, it was not, I wouldn't sleep like a baby, but I wouldn't die,
You want to die. just enough not to freeze.
Just wake up every hour like, oh God, what am I doing? And then roll over and go back to sleep. Yeah.
That sucks. But then now you got your diesel heater and you just take a blanket and you're like, oh, turn down the heat.
Yeah.
Open the windows. That's fun.
Yeah. Crank your windows like 6 inches down on each side and just blast it. Yeah.
Me and my buddies went, it was back in January. I think it was January and December. And it got down to teens.
Nice.
Well, I had my diesel heater, and whenever I got back, because I always sleep with like Crocs or slip-on shoes, so if I got to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, I just shoot down the ladder.
Yeah.
Well, one of my Crocs shrunk. I thought one of the boys traded me shoes. It was in front of the diesel heater hose. The hose that gets plumbed through the tent, and it shrunk the Croc to like significantly, probably a shoe and a half size, and like an inch and a half shoe, whatever I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I've
never thought about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. So if you're going to run and we should do like, not me and you, somebody out there should do this experiment. Have it plumbed in low with like an inflatable mattress.
Yeah.
Low with like a memory foam, or just like with a stock, and see which one like is prone to shrinking or popping or being deformed. Yeah. Because like ideally, like you don't want to put the hose all the way up on top. That's too much work for the outside. So you always try to just put it in that little corner to where it's easy to go in and out. Anyway. Yeah. This is a weird conversation we're having, but
I'm just shocked don't put your shrunk.
Yeah, don't put your Crocs in front of your little flex hose or whatever.
No.
So they were all like, I was trying to, piece it together. Mr. Detective over here texting them individually. He's like, hey, did you by chance pick up an extra Croc? Mine doesn't seem to fit anymore. I think we switched shoes there.
How hard did they laugh when you guys finally figured it out, though?
Oh, it was like a week later. Because because I wasn't telling them what was going on. I was just like, yeah. And I'm playing detective, so I'm just like, got my board set up in my room and the pictures everywhere at the lines drawn. I'm like, who was it? Yeah. It all pointed back to the diesel heater. You can't make this up. That's a story you have to tell.
Do what?
I said that's a story you just have to tell. It took some time getting
pretty there. Pretty good. Yeah.
It was pretty good. Well, let's move into some politics. I like politics.
Oh, okay.
Who are you voting for? I'm just joking. Jeez. No, we're going straight there.
Let's
talk about the word overlanding and all that stuff. You've been in the scene for a while. I've been in for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
Quote unquote, you've heard things. Like people just throw the word overlanding around. Do you feel like it's like too much now? Are we to a breaking point of the term and the branding and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Like, because I think I'm in the minority on this one. Like, everybody in these groups talks about, it's all beat up and it's just car camping, it's this and that. I did my last podcast episode was what is the difference between car camping and overlanding?
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just like, I see it so much, like, and it's kind of almost irritating because people are like, I mean, I don't care. Like, I'm in the camp of like, call it whatever you want, right? Like, as long as you're exploring, that's literally all I care about. Like, honestly, I would say even me having done it for 4 or 5 years now, like, sure, I've driven on the highway to Wisconsin and then camped for 2 days, right? But like, I mean, yeah, I was pretty much relying on my car, but like, I wasn't that remote. I didn't really live out of my vehicle. Like, we ate lunch at a restaurant both days, I think, that we were up there. Yeah. Like, so, I mean, most of the stuff that I do, technically, I wouldn't classify as overlanding, but I just call it all overlanding because, like, I'm dependent on my vehicle. I'm exploring in my vehicle, and that's all that matters to me, right? So I think car camping, what kind of really made me think about the difference in those two terms was that I was talking to a gal at, like, one of my kids' swim meets, and she was like, oh, you go camping? We do, too. I was like, oh, cool. Like, what do you do? And she's like, we take our camper to the state park, and we plug it in, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I was like, you're going to think I'm a weirdo because I don't do any of that luxurious stuff. Like, I drive in the middle of nowhere and have to live out of my vehicle like a hobo, and it's different. So that's kind of what made me think of it. But I mean, like, again, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're just getting out and exploring, I think if you're exploring and you're relying on your vehicle, that's overlanding, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
So
it really does, and I think it's odd that people feel like they have a need to put it in a box. I like to ask. It's probably a dead horse to most of my listeners, but I like to ask the question and get different responses because, like, for me, I feel like if you're going, 2 hours away from your home, living in the woods for 2 days and coming home, sure, you're living out of your vehicle, type of overland travel, that's fine.
Right.
If I wanted to back road from here to, California, sure, that's overlanding and all that jazz. Sure. But that's not going to take me 2 months to do. It's going to take me maybe a couple days. So it's like now people are putting a timestamp on this thing. So it's
right.
It's weird.
I mean, I think it's kind of silly overall. I don't really care, right? Like, That's part of why I call it all things overlanding, because like it could be anything. I mean, anything to do with overlanding is what I like to talk about, whether it's a freaking flashlight or, like a cool flashlight that I like that helps me get out and explore more, whatever it is. So
that's where I get in a rut, and everybody thinks I need to drive a shoebox or something. It's like, no, let's slow it down here, folks.
Right.
That's always been my debate, but I don't know. I've always wanted to be like, hey, you could overland within your budget and all this stuff. Yeah. And now it's just like, whatever. It's the same thing with overlanding. It's whatever your take on it is. I know where I stand on certain stuff, and it is what it is.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, what's the 3? Let's just jump in. Let's go into vehicles.
Okay.
So you've got, gosh, do you have 4 vehicles now? Do you personally, like, you've got your Xterra, or not an Xterra?
I got rid of the Xterra, so yeah, I had an Xterra. I started with the Xterra. That was the first.
A second-gen Frontier, or is that a first-gen Frontier?
Then I had a second-gen Frontier, 2008, Titan-swapped Frontier.
You still have that?
I still have that currently. Yeah, I need to sell it, but I still have it.
Are you really wanting to sell it?
Yeah.
All right.
Because I don't need both. I mean, sure, it'll kick the crap out of my current truck, like, from an off-road standpoint, but, like, I don't need all that to do what I do, so...
And then you still have your little car?
Nope, I traded that on the new Frontier.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So now we're to the part that's, look, you're smiling now. Let's get to your new rig. But I just want to know, are you like a Nissan guy? Like you had to get Nissan or
Yes and yes. Yeah. Like, I mean, that's my whole life, man. I've had like 20 Nissans and I love them. So
cool. Yeah. And that's cool. Like I'm a Toyota guy. I'll probably always be a Toyota guy. There's Jeep guys.
Yeah, I liked my Lexus a lot. It was a great car.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's where the next question is. Why the heck did you get a Nissan truck? So anyway, tell us, why'd you get a full size, and what are they even called now?
Well, so I just got another Frontier. That's what I got.
Okay.
I got a 2023 Frontier Pro 4X. It's basically the same as the last truck, but they look better now and they have better tech on them. So for those that aren't Nissan people, kind of the cool thing is they actually swapped to this motor. They swapped from the old 4-liter to a 3.8 liter in 2020, and they put the 9-speed transmission that's in the current truck in it in 2020. So technically my truck is a 4th year of this model, 2nd year of the body style, but like the engine and transmission combo have been around for 4 years. So
nice.
I get the benefit of like the much nicer interior, better seats, tons of tech, wireless charging, heated steering wheel, heated cloth seats, better looking truck, LED headlights, LED fogs, just all around better stuff. But like the bed dimensions are exactly the same as the second gen. The frame is pretty much exactly the same as the second gen. The engine and transmission are the same as the last 2 years of the second gen. So like technically my sliders and all my armor will probably transfer over from the old truck. My bed rack I had for the old truck and I put it on the new truck. So like there's a lot of benefits there for Nissan people. And Nissan's always been like that. Like even my old truck is Titan swapped. And what that means is you can literally take like the upper control arms, lower control arms, CVs, suspension from a Titan and plug it into a Frontier. It all just bolts right up. Outfits right up to the truck. You can even VK56 swap them, which everybody assumes that's what a Titan swap is. They think you put the V8, 5.6 liter V8 in it. That's a VK swap. I didn't do that. I thought about it. But that literally uses the same motor mounts. Like you have to redo a harness, redo one of the harnesses, but that's it. Aside from that, it's plug and play.
Bolts right up to the transmission, bell housing or whatever. Yeah. That is insane.
Yeah. Huh. So, but yeah, the new truck's just a new Frontier Pro 4X. So it's got the skids and the locker and all that stuff, but it's been a great truck. I love it.
Yeah, because oh yeah. Well, you were at Moore and you didn't have any of your stuff, so you were pretty much a bone stock truck, and you had a hammock.
Yeah. It was miserable.
So now talk to us about your quote unquote build. Go through it. I know you've done a lot in the last week for sure, but or to us in the last week you have, but go through everything. That was my plan, was to go really, really slow with it. But about 8-10 months ago, I got invited to go on a trip up through Quebec to the Hudson Bay on the Trans-Taiga. Which was like 4,200 miles round trip. And it's like the most remote place you can go in North America. It's like 400 miles away from the nearest settlement. Wow.
And so that was our plan for the last 8 months. And then the wildfires happened in Canada. So literally that whole road is shut down and like all the towns are evacuated and stuff. So we had to make a decision. So we decided we lost about half the team. We had about 7 or 8 of us. Now we're down to 4, which is a little bit tighter knit team. Just it'll be a little easier with less people probably. No offense, like we'll miss the old people too.
Sure. Yeah.
We love everyone, but now there will be a solid 4 rigs going. But we're going to go run the Wyoming VDR, which they just created last May. So It's brand new. But so in preparation for that and prior to that for Canada, I was like, well, I guess I should build this thing up a little bit. So the really quick version, because I could talk about this for an hour, but I won't.
We'll talk about it. We got an hour to fill. We what are we on 4 hours right now?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we got like 4 left. Yeah. So it was bone stock. It's 2,500 miles on it now. I took it to more, and that was about 1,200-ish miles, I think, 1,400 miles of the 2,500. But when I drove it there, I just put the bed rack on. That's all I had. It's a bed rack. And then I got back from more middle of April, right? That's when that was. And now it's middle of June. And since then, I've added a 2-inch lift from All Dogs Off-Road, which I love. Nice. It's great. I'm going to get an alignment on Friday on that because I just got it on last week. The bed rack's been reconfigured and kind of moved around. Got a new rooftop tent. On top, clamshell style, aluminum folding, slim style rooftop tent. Kind of like my old one, but just updated. The old one was several years old, so I ended up giving that to a friend and then got this new one just to kind of change things up. So I've got that on there now. I've got the solar back on it. I've got my Red Arc power management in it with a 200 amp hour LiFePo 4 battery now. So fully independent. It's just charging from solar, and it's got the option of shore power if I want it, but the solar pretty much keeps it topped off. And then that's running all my accessories. So I've got full lighting under the bed that I just added. I've got an independent backup camera because my bed is filling up with stuff, so I can't really see out the back. So I added a full-time backup camera with its own little monitor up front so that I can actually see behind me if I need to. God, what else have I done? All that lighting. I got strobes on the back, so when it gets super dusty or cloudy or foggy, I can turn on the strobes. I've got the fridge. I built my own double drawer slide in the back, basically. Looks good. Huge.
Is that the full length of the truck bed?
No, so I customized it. So my Red Arc, it's a 200 amp hour battery. So it's like the size of a
pretty
Plano
big,
crate.
yeah.
And so I used actually a 104 quart Plano crate that I had laying around. It has the battery in it and all the Red Arc stuff in it. And then we clammed out all the cords from it. So that actually sits up against the cab in the back of the bed, but it's accessible, but it's secure and it's like out of the way. And then there's some storage beside it, which I'm probably going to either try and build in an air compressor. I might put my air compressor in some sort of like a waterproof storage next to that and then put like a topper over it all. But I'm not sure yet. Right now, I'm just trying to get ready for this trip. So I'm just throwing stuff together. Sure. But then it's basically 44 inches long and about 44 inches wide, which is the distance between the wheel wells. And then it's 2 about 21-inch drawers after all the material width and stuff. So, I mean, they're massive. I've got twice as much gear in there probably as I was able to fit in my decked stuff before. And it's customizable with wood, so I can move dividers around and customize it how I want and stuff. And then I just I built my own, a little DIY tilt fridge slide on top of it. Just took a piece of wood, put a hinge on the front, and then limiting straps hooked to D-rings on the back of the piece of wood with the fridge slide on top. So when you tilt it, the fridge when you start to slide the fridge out, when the weight hits that counterpoint, it tips, and then it just goes up to the limiting straps, stop it, and then it tilts down. It's beautiful. It's like the coolest thing I've ever made. It's stupid simple.
It's the little things like that you appreciate that much more.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I am excited for you, and I'm excited to watch your progress. And I'm like, dang, he's just going all out on this. But that makes sense that you're rushing it, quote unquote, rushing it to get ready for your trip. Now, when's your trip again?
It's first 2 weeks of July. So a little over a week.
So like a couple weeks now.
Yeah. Week and a half away.
Wow, dude. Well, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
And how long is that trip going to be? Still 2 weeks?
2 weeks. Yeah. We just decided to use the same time. So we've got.
Well, good for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. It's about 21 hours to get there. So it's a pretty good drive. We're going to drive. We'll leave Sunday the 2nd and go about 6 hours to Iowa. And then from there, about an 11-hour day. The next day, we'll get most of the way there. And then probably by lunchtime that Tuesday, we'll be on trail on the BDR. So.
Man, that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I've never been to Wyoming.
I would love
to
go out there.
Huh?
Oh, man, it's like Idaho, Wyoming, all those places are just kind of looked over. But they're going to be more popular, if more and more people do this overland thing. You can only go to Utah and Colorado so many times, or New Mexico, without getting on top of each other. Well, that's cool, man.
Thanks.
Well, I don't really know. I mean, I've got some questions kind of written out, but not really. We've kind of been touching on a lot of them. But is there anything that you specifically think we should touch on?
Oh, man.
Something that maybe for people starting out in this, because it's kind of overwhelming for, I was talking to a couple of friends when we went to Moore.
Yep.
We were walking through early before the doors open. I was like, man, I can remember back looking and being like, man, this is so much money here and so much stuff that I don't even know where to spend money on it, even if I knew.
Right.
So like, what do you do? Like if you advise people to get involved in doing this stuff, it's not necessarily like your camping gear, your cooking gear, or the basic stuff, but like what's some good advice you'd give somebody starting out?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's actually funny that you asked that because that's most of my content, right? Like I feel like I remember when I started and I was really intimidated, right? Like the same thing you just said, like you're just like, a rooftop tent is $3,500. Like my truck, my first Xterra was $7,000, right? Like I was like, do I spend half of what I just spent on a whole truck for a tent? Like I can't do that. That's crazy. So it's pretty intimidating, right? When you start, but so that's why I make a lot of my content about like how to get into it on a shoestring budget, how to do a lot of the stuff yourself. The best advice that I think I could give people is like, you're going to watch all these videos, right, on YouTube, and you're going to read all this stuff, and you're going to listen to these podcasts, and you're going to hear, like, you're going to see these aspirational builds of these, $200,000, 200 series Land Cruisers, right? And you're going to be like, man, I just can't go. That's what I did with my Xterra, too. I had, like, before I even bought the truck, I had a lift, 33s, a bunch of gear, a bunch of camping stuff, hammock. I spent like $2,000, $2,500 before I even picked up my truck, before I even found it on parts. Wow. And I was like, well, I can't go. I need to get all this stuff on the truck before I go. But so like the best advice I can give people is just go with what you got. I mean, like even if you have a car, like for a while when my truck was down last year, you probably saw some of that. I was going in my Lexus.
That was funny.
Like
that was awesome.
In Hoosier National in my Lexus with a fridge in the back seat and like a hammock and junk thrown in my trunk. And it was fine. It did great. I mean, you're not going to do water crossings or do anything epic, but like, just go out and start slow. You're not trying to climb a mountain or anything to start. You don't have to go on a 2-week trip through a BDR in some remote state. Like, just go to your local dispersed camping national forest and explore a little bit and just go easy and test your gear. And then you'll learn really quick, like what you need, right? Like what like I learned, it took me like 2 years before I got a rooftop tent. Yeah. I did a $50 Coleman pop-up tent for like 6-8 months. And then I was like, it got cold, it got rained on, and then rain was coming in the tent. I'm like, this kind of sucks. And then my back was hurting. So I went to like cot camping in a tent, and then I went to hammock camping, and then I went back to tent camping with like an air mattress, and that sucked. And I was like, I tried everything. But then finally I tried a rooftop tent, and I'm like, it's comfortable, it's quick, it's easy, it's always on the truck, so I can just hop in and go, but it took me years to get there. And like, I had a ton of fun and learned a ton of stuff with a $50 tent, Right. So,
well, you knew what you didn't want, you didn't want that tent no more. You wanted to upgrade. Yeah. But a lot of people, I feel like you did well there. A lot of people pat yourself on the back. That was so good. No, what's funny is, like you said, is like people laugh or not even laugh, but maybe it's like, oh, that's an unnecessary item, or that's ridiculously expensive. But we're all on different journeys. I always tell people, it's like, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. This marathon could take us the rest of your life, or it could take you one weekend trip and it'd be over. So I understand, like, if you even camp out of your car for like one night, sleep in the seat, recline it. They're making them nice and cushy now for people that buy newer vehicles. I don't know. You slept in yours. Did you sleep all right?
No.
Okay, so anyway, you could get away with one night and be all right. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't take much, like you said. The second main thing is the hang up. Like, I know so many people that have to have the cookie cutter build. Yeah. Like they want the Tacoma, they want the rack, they want the traction boards on the side. They have to have it to look like this. But they will never go. And I'm not bashing those kind of people. The fun part for them is just building it out. Sure. And that's cool. Make it look cool. Yeah. But it's like they get hung up on like, okay, I could go camping this weekend, but I don't have my water, system yet. Right. It's like, I better wait for that. See you guys, go have fun. I'll see you at Riggs and Coffee though. Yeah. It's like, well, it is what it is.
It's funny too, because like I recently had an epiphany and did a whole episode on like simplicity, because I caught myself doing exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, despite that advice that I just gave everyone, right? Like, after a few years of it, like, I'm in the same place where I'm like, I need 35s. I need a Titan swap. I need, to be able to climb over top of a giant down tree for some apparent reason. And like, I need, the pop out shower curtain, and I need a hot water heater and a pump, and I need a dual battery to run that. And then I'm like, I literally hit a point. I have a hot water shower thing in my garage, and I got a pump for it. And as I'm getting this stuff, I've already spent the money. I can't return it. It's already done.
Right.
That's when I did that episode on simplicity. I'm like, I'm actually exhausted, and like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm getting beat up by how much gear I feel like I have to have and the complexity of running it all. And now I have one of those little black bags that you kind of like pump up. You put the water in it, and it's black, and you let it sit in the heat. You pump it up to put air pressure in it. It has a little sprayer on it. That's my shower solution. It's 40
And I think a lot of people that have done it, obviously, like I'm more of a weekend lander or whatever. I'll do a couple long trips a year. That's it. But to the guys that are full time and everything, a lot of those guys are even saying that, if they don't use something within 3 to 4 weeks or days, even they'll put it in a little section. And if they don't use it in 3 or 4 weeks from there, they'll just ship it home or donate it or sell it or something. Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are being more simplistic now or a minimalist, maybe because they jumped in a little too heavy at the beginning and they realize that A, they've got too much crap to enjoy the weekend, and B, it's just unnecessary.
Yeah.
To the point. Everybody's different. I don't want to bash anybody for having, a trailer or any of that they pull with their rig.
Yeah.
But anywho, well, I don't want to end it now. We're only at like 34 minutes. This would be the world's shortest interview.
I can try and come up with some stuff for you.
I just feel like, our thoughts and questions towards each other are probably different than like somebody who's actually new.
Yeah.
Because my buddy really enjoys going on trips with me and having conversations with me around a fire because, A, I might say something and be like, well, what's that? We'll talk about it. So I'm trying to be, I don't know, it's the word there, but trying to make it to where people can get a little education.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or insight to something. What's something that, that's kind of the bee's knees that you don't think anybody knows about?
Like gear wise?
Sure. What's like a something that's in your kit that you're like, you know what, this thing's so cool, I got to tell everybody.
Yeah. I've got a few things right now. Again, that DIY fridge slide is like my favorite thing, and I'm going to be making a video on that and talking a lot about that in the future because I can't believe more people aren't talking about it. I actually stole, it's basically back in the olden days before Wes started Shawnee Hill's workshop, builds the drawer systems and all that. He made a video about it, and I watched it like 4 years ago. But it's the same idea. He used a hinge on the front and then limiting straps in the rear. So it's his idea, for credit's sake. But, I basically stole it from him. That thing's pretty awesome. I tell you what, though, I just got these new things, and I don't think anybody's heard of these things. And I'm going to be testing them on the Wyoming trip and then talking about them, but I already tested them a little bit at home. And I think they're going to be game changers. And that's what all overlanding YouTubers say all the time, is everything is a game changer, right? I try not to say it very much. But so these things are, and I don't have any in here, they're outside of my office, but there's this company, I've got his card right here, called Mojack. They make these things that are like portable ozone machines that basically like eliminate all bacteria and smells and stuff. And they're now making small portable battery powered ones with the goal of overlanding as their target. Nice. So they I talked to them actually a little bit after more. And like I said, they just sent me some, but this thing is probably about like that big and maybe about that thick. Got a little display on it. And what you do is you take like a bin or something, right? The guy that I talked to is like their marketing guy. And he's like, I went to Alaska and I brought 3 sets of clothes with me. And I was there for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something long like that. And I'm like, how did you do that? And he's like, at night I would go to bed. I would put my clothes in this bin. I would set this machine in there. And it actually there's no chemicals or anything. It's all like magical science stuff, right? Where it creates ozone. It's like an ozone machine, right? And you put it in that bin and it kills all the bacteria, all the smells. And then he had like fresh clothes the next day. So he could once every couple of days, he could just throw all his clothes in this bin and turn this thing on. Or what I said to him is I would love that for my rooftop tent because it smells like smoke and it gets nasty and smelly and you get bacteria or mold in there if you get some water in it or, that sort of thing. He said, man, you just throw it in there for 2 hours, just let it run, get in there. He said, if you put it in your new truck, you will not have a new car smell anymore. It will just get rid of everything.
Ooh.
So
don't do that. New car smells the best smell.
I know. I'm not running it in my car. You better believe that until that's gone. When it starts to smell like smoke or something, then I'll run it. But But yeah, these things are rad. I'm just like, I've never even heard of this before. Like, no one's even thought. I mean, I've been on multiple, like 3, 4, 5 day trips. And by the end, you're stinking, right? Like your clothes are getting there. Obviously, it won't remove stains or anything like that. But if it gets rid of all the bacteria and the scents and the smoke and the smell, like that could be huge. So
yeah, and they're not very big either, so they don't take up a lot of space.
Yeah, and I think it says that it'll run off that battery for like 4 or 5 uses before you need to charge it. So I mean, that would last a whole 2-week trip for me, probably. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm going to test them on this Wyoming trip. It's going to be a 2-week test to see how. I'm probably going to bring like 5 or 6 sets of clothes and just count on it to help me.
So. Well, I'm curious to see the feedback on that too, because I know what you're talking about. I'm curious. I mean, I think that's what astronauts use, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It sounds smart, so we'll say the astronauts are using it.
Yeah, it's developed by NASA, I'm sure. So.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk, like, everybody likes to talk about camp cooked meals and stuff. What's some of your go-tos?
God, I'm the worst cook. No, my problem has been that for the last year and a half, I just haven't really concreted my setup. That's why I'm actually really excited about the new truck.
Oh, really? So tell us about your setup. Is it like a Blackstone, a 2-burner, cast iron?
Yeah, I've had a bunch of different setups. I've actually got a 17-inch griddle in my garage right now, and I was going to build my drawer system around it, and then I got the thing, and it's freaking huge.
They are big.
I was like, I'm going to have to make one drawer like 40 of the 44 inches and then have like a little slit that I can put a chair in, you know? So I ended up changing my whole design and deciding not to use the griddle. So I historically have used a Coleman 2-burner for everything, like the old school $40, $50 Coleman 2-burner. In my Xterra, I had a drawer system that I built with a buddy that had a big slide out with a fridge on top of it, and then it had a separate slide out that came out the side with the stove on it. So basically, you slide it out, access your fridge here, have your stove in front of it, be cooking. And it worked great. It was fine. And then with the Frontier, what happened was then I switched to the Frontier, and then it broke immediately. It broke on my way home. Like the guy had done the timing chains wrong, chain guides. No. And it fouled out all the spark plugs and everything. I had to redo all the way from the intake through the cats all the way out the back because of his fun error. But so dealing with those problems with the truck caused by the previous owner, like the truck went down out of the last year and a half. It's probably been down about 6 months out of the last 18. So like, wow, I never really worked on it. And I'd had an SUV with a built-in drawer system where everything had a place. And then I went to a truck with a deck system and I was just throwing junk in there. So I ended up switching from the Coleman 2-burner to the Fold and Go. Kind of like the Jetboil Genesis, but way cheaper, the Coleman Fold and Go. But I love it. It's a nice little stove. It doesn't take up a ton of room. It fits in my new drawers perfectly, and then I can pop it out on the tailgate and have 2 10-inch pans going side by side. But so, like, favorite meals, I would say, I mean, I'm a big, like, meat and potatoes guy. I'm from the Midwest, right? Yeah. So, like, steak and instant mashed potatoes is a go-to. Burgers, hot dogs, that kind of anything meat, I'm good. But... I mean, recently, not knowing my setup, I've been boiling water and doing like freeze-dried meals, peak meals, and things like that. So,
what about breakfast? Do you have any go-tos on there? Are you more of just a candy bar and Mountain Dew guy?
I think I might like have a death wish because I eat those. You know those little like Little Debbie cherry pies that are like 4 billion calories and like 87 pounds of sugar. That's that and like a Monster Energy, and I'm just like my heart starts beating again, and I wake up. You know,
jolt. You get the 9 o'clock jolt. What happened, Jay?
I'm 42, and if I make it to 45, I'll be surprised. So,
oh gosh, don't say that. You need to get into hiking. Incorporate hiking with your overlanding. I'm telling that to everybody.
I tried that. I went on a 20-mile backpacking trip with a buddy of mine. Right.
Well, that's your problem.
Yeah.
You should have done like a 2-mile hike.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then when I got back, I was like, you know what? This overlanding thing seems pretty great because I can just drive and put as much beer in my fridge as I want, and I don't have to walk anywhere. So.
Yep. I always say we're the lazy backpackers.
Yeah. That's what it is.
But the guys that are like, I'm not saying this, like they're getting older. So like some guys that hike, like hardcore hikers, like they're kind of wore out from doing some of their stuff. Yeah. So they kind of slowly get into like overlanding, but they still incorporate what they can. Yeah. So anyway, coming from like a backpack perspective where like it's all about weight.
Yeah, minimalism.
So it's like, it's like whatever little kit that they could carry. And then, they'll throw that bag or whatever in their truck. They're like, all right, let's go. Very minimalist. Yeah. It's like they can handle it.
Yeah.
So a rooftop tent to them is probably like staying in a Hilton.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Instead of like a single swag tent or something.
Well, before we head to the door, anything you want to plug or talk about? Not necessarily.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, well, since I got you and your audience, no, I'm just kidding. Not a plug per se, but yeah, I mean, if you guys aren't aware, my channel is called All Things Overlanding. Like we talked about, I mean, YouTube is the big thing. So I put out a couple videos every week about gear stuff or general overlanding tips and tricks for new folks mostly. I'm on all those things, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. The Newbie Overlanders is the group, the new Facebook group. It's growing pretty fast. I mean, but what I'm trying to do with it, it's not nearly as big as Budget, right? Budget's one of my favorite groups out there. And it's still like organic and fun and funny and stuff. But what I'm trying to do with that one is keep it like the anti-Overlanding USA, right? Like where it's not like someone posts up a question and they just immediately get beat on, or it's just all self-promotion stuff. So it's like I'm trying to keep it pretty much just let the newbies ask questions and let people give them real answers instead of beating them up. So, but that's a cool little group. So especially if you're newer and you want to, have another Facebook group to join, that one's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I've got, like Benji, I've got a ton of stickers and patches, and I never talk about them. But if you want some funny ones, I've got one that's like a hot dog and it says "Don't burn your wiener," which I think is hilarious. I've got one that says "I hate people, so I camp." I've got a patch and a sticker for that. I've got one that says the F word bleeped out. People, F people. Let's go overlanding. That's new, so that one's pretty cool. But patches and stickers for overlanders, I've got them. So come to allthingsoverlanding.com.
What's funny is you say something about, Benji's got stickers. Somebody else called me out like, ooh, Benji's turned into like sticker something or whatever. I was like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, don't crush my vibe, bro.
That. Yeah, man, just because I like to sell stickers.
That's why I never promote anything. I feel guilty if one person says something and then no one ever knows I have it.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
No, it's stupid. It's like I always tell people to go to the store. If you like something, sure, it kind of helps promote and support the show. And I mean, this stuff's not cheap to do. You know that.
Yeah, sure. Well, that's the thing, too. It's not like we're talking about millions of dollars or plug-in something. Like, go spend $2,000 on my rooftop tent or anything, So
Sure. No. Not cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Yeah. What's the next big expo? Are you going to do any of the East Side Expo?
I need to do East, but it's really close to Core is probably my next big thing, KOAR, up in the UP. That's in September.
Dadgummit. I think we're going to go the last week of August.
Okay.
You're like, cool, but that's not when Core is.
It's close, though.
That's close.
Have you been to the UP before?
No, never have.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool.
And per my calculations, I think we're like 13 hours away.
Yeah, that seems all right. I'm like 11
it's gonna be
where I am. It's crazy.
It's going to be a haul.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's beautiful
up
there.
It's fun to drive.
August, you won't have any color or anything in the trees yet. We don't really, even at Core, it's a little early for that. Like we're like 2 to 4 weeks early on color stuff of the trees, but hopefully the bugs will be better for you.
Is that typically Core? Is that second week of September?
It's like middle of September, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've talked to a few people and they're like, yeah, you might be hit or miss on late August there, but we're doing it because of my son's in school. And it's like, we always try to do one family trip like that. That's cool. We'll see.
Yeah. When you're on the lake you'll have some like lake effect, like it cools you down and stuff. So it'll help with the heat. And it's neat. There's nothing like super crazy challenging, but there's some fun water crossings and rocky stuff up there and tons of sandy, rocky stuff. It's fun.
I was thinking I've got a set of all-terrain tires.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of swapping those out because I've got mud tires. I don't want to drive that far on mud tires.
Yeah. I mean, you can do fine on ATs. There's nothing. I mean, at least the parts that I've been to, I think there's some stuff that's challenging, but most of the stuff is just tight trails, trees scraping down the side of your truck and maybe some little water crossings and stuff. So
it looks beautiful. It looks like I like seeing different things, like obviously different things, but like even whenever I go to Arkansas, it's like totally different than my backyard and it's a 4-hour drive.
Yep.
It's like, that's awesome. And then the same thing, like if you go out west, it's kind of deserty and mountainy and all that cool stuff.
Yeah. It has its own vibe for sure. Yeah. You'll like it.
Sweet.
Cool, man.
Well, Mr. Fletch, do I keep calling you Jason sometimes?
It's all right. My wife calls me that.
I didn't want your identity to be blown.
Shh, don't tell him.
All right. Dude, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry, I'm not really a questiony kind of person. I just kind of I like to see what kind of rabbit holes we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
But, no, dude, it's good catching up to you. Appreciate you coming on. I can't wait to watch your trip out west. That's going to be a fun one. I know you're excited to take your new truck and have fun.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be in your...
We'll see.
Yeah. A brand new trail or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I hope not. Do you have front and rear bumpers on it?
No.
Aftermarket? All stock. Winch?
Nope, not yet. It's still on the old truck. I'm going to move it over. I need to get a bumper. That's one of the things I just didn't have time to do. I've got like 3 options for bumpers that I'm interested in, but they're like $1,000, and then I got to
everything's stupid. Yeah.
So,
all right. Do they have like a hidden plate for like a winch plate?
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's
cool.
The cool thing is with the sort of the mouth of that truck, there's like body color stuff and then like a non-body color, that piece in the middle that just comes out, and then the bumper fits right in there, bolts right up to your frame rails and replaces where your tow hooks were. So it's pretty, like I could do it myself in 3 hours, probably 2 hours a weekend.
Nice.
So
cool, man.
Just got to spend the money.
Well, that's not bad. It all, why does everything revolve around money? It's stupid.
I know. We should just get stuff for free and just not have to work.
We should.
Great.
We should. I think there's a form for that.
We just got to make it a thing.
We got to do it.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's hard for me to hang up the phone because this is like the 4th hang up, but I would ask you to hang up first, but that's just weird because it's my show.
We could just keep
just
playing chicken until it happens. So, and then I'm just gone, and it's very awkward and weird. And you're like, I'm never talking to that guy again.
4 hours from now. Some over the road trucker right now just loves this podcast because it never ends. He's got content all day.
It's like this budget overland stuff is crazy. I thought it was over 18 times and just keeps going.
To end this conversation, insert a dime. No, in all seriousness, man, thanks for coming on. Yep. I will link all your things in the show notes below.
Sweet.
Guys, go over to Jason's YouTube channel, check it out, give him a subscribe. Go listen to his podcast. And what days do you air your podcast?
Mine comes out pretty much every Sunday at like 11 a.m. Eastern time. 10
cool.
your time.
So go listen to him on Sunday. Listen to me on Monday and Thursdays. Be nice to somebody and don't be a prick. And go ahead and clean up after somebody else while you're at it of their campsite. So until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.